All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for sharing. For me, when I did the vision and mission statement, I brought everybody that was important to me in the forefront of my mind because I want to walk boldly. I want to be the message that there doesn't have to be a translation of what I say and how you see me show up. I've given myself permission to own the beauty and the power and the presence of God that demonstrates as me and demonstrates as this community, individually and collectively, that I love the presence and the essence of God that shows up every Sunday as Downey Center for Spiritual Living. And I have the pleasure of speaking today, once again, continuing with timeless wisdom, evolutionary vision. But I get to speak a pulled by vision. And I don't know about you, but visioning is not the easiest spiritual practice that I have. Visioning is the imagination of, do I feel it? Do I see it? Do I hear it? What is it exactly? Sometimes I can overthink what God makes so beautifully simple. But we get to talk about that today, pulled by vision, because we've been discussing all month the practices of the Center for Spiritual Living. And what are the practices? By participation, you can unmute yourself. Anybody have a particular favorite spiritual practice that they do rather frequently? Anyone? Frankie's trying to tell me something, but she's muted.
We have a little sage going right now. That's actually a spiritual practice that her and I like to do, just like a cleanse, kind of like my favorite spiritual practice right now is affirmative prayer and writing. And that I learned from you. But right now we're just doing a little cleanse. So that's what we're doing right now while you're speaking.
Well, thank you. I love that. And I appreciate being able to see Frankie's demonstration of doing that too. It's good to see her as she grows as tall as her mama. Anybody else have a spiritual practice that they enjoy? Want to share? Okay, I'm not going to pick on the shy kids anymore. I'm just going to talk. We have a practice of journaling, which is writing that affirmative prayer. We have spiritual mind treatment, where we either speak our words into creation or we ask somebody, a mental equivalent, to hold that in prayer as we walk through our life. We learn to meditate, we take classes, and we do visioning as a way of life. And I want to tell you that our past is easier to talk about because we've felt it, we've seen it, we've experienced. It's easy to talk about, well, the way it's been and what happened to me is because we've had a tangible experience with the past. Visioning is creating a tangible experience with what it is that you want to experience as your life. So when we're looking at this month, we get an opportunity to revision, to get clearer, to commit to a vision, because life is going to happen anyway. Life is going to go ahead and experience in and through us. And we can either say, God, lifetime just seems to speed up, or depending on how you feel, time drags. But if you don't give your mind something to do, it'll grab a hold of whatever got your attention and make that more important than your vision. So practicing the spiritual practices of science of mind, with the taking classes, with the meditation, with the journaling, with the some sort of group activities where it's a collective consciousness. So it's not just yourself by yourself, but to make and build a community that thrives your life and your desires, or helps create those. So the visioning that we have, as Reverend Sunshine talked about last month, through the 4 stages of consciousness, life is either happening to me, life is happening through me. I've got some control over this. There's laws I can use. God and I are one, that I know that one with God is a majority. And those three are the most visited of the four stages. And every now and then I get glimpses of God is all there is, that I am taking myself and allowing myself to feel the good that is God, the love that is God, that I can trust what's happening because it's God happening through me. And I know that in each four of those stages is the fullness of God, that God is creating through me right where I'm at, that I'm not more spiritual as a victim than I am as accepting that God is all there is, or if I think I'm in control, or if God and I are together. None of it is more important than the other, but the awareness of it can either bring you peace or it can make you a little uncomfortable. You get to choose how you use each stage of your life. And I listened to Dr. John DeMartini, and he says, whatever you don't make peace with becomes baggage. And whatever you look at both sides of and appreciate becomes fuel. It's not either or, it's both. That two things could be happening or at the same time, because the bigger your light, the bigger your shadow. You're always going to have a shadow if you demonstrate light. So in the fullness of God, when you're looking at any circumstance, if you just look at the circumstance, the physical world, you can see that the environment is gone amok a little bit. You can describe what you think especially if you watch TV, you can describe what you think's happening in the world as, the world's lost its mind. Or you can be the light in the darkness and see past the experience and speak to the Christ consciousness and call forth a life that you want to live. When I used to go in the prison, I would talk to the men all the time and they would want to confess to me why they're in prison. And I'd go, dude, you're in prison. That's all I need to know. I got that. But we don't feel healed until we feel heard. So I listen. And then I get to the point where they stop talking and I ask them, what do you want to do with that? Because now I want to know, where does the wisdom come in? Where are you going to look at what you did to get here and how you can use it to make a better life? And that is the fourth stage of consciousness. Life is happening to me, stage one. Life is happening through me. I got some control, stage two. God and I are one, stage three. God and I in one is a beautiful thing to say, but to give up that little sense of separation where there's two things happening, to go to stage four, it's only God. That is stepping into the boldness of who you are. So Centers for Spiritual Living is creating a theme for each center to use as a guideline for talks, that we are one mind across the world, at every spiritual center speaking to the same topic, using the samples that they give us. And I'm asking, have you created a theme for your life? And are you making it manageable? Are you chunking it down to a year? Because we can use each month of the year to be a topic and then speak to that week after week, day after day, that we are speaking what we want to experience into creation. And you can do it in many ways. You can do it by every 10 years, every 5 years, every season. It's up to you how you want to create a template. But let's look at a year at a glance. How about in January when we celebrate new beginnings? In January, when we know that in some places it could bring a fresh snow, that's a fresh, pure blanket of possibilities. And as we walk out into the world, we can go in any direction and create footsteps and create our own path in that blanket of snow. In January, we envision our goals, our who we want to be in the world, what we want to accomplish. In February, let's say we want to fall in love with that. We want to fall so much in love with ourselves that we're in love with everybody around us. In March, let's say we want to march forth and go out bold in the world and go past our usual perimeters and expand our consciousness and see what else we can experience. How about in April? We decide what seeds we want to plant and prepare ourselves for receptivity to create that ground of possibility for where we are seeding our own environment. That's what we do when we tithe to Downey Center for Spiritual Living. We are tithing to the success and the expansion of the consciousness of the Downey Center for Spiritual Living, that we get to participate in what we love and invite more in expanding our sphere of influence. In May we plant seeds, knowing that in our action of doing that we are preparing for that expanded awareness. In June, we don't see anything. We relax, we enjoy the summer, but we believe in the process. The seed has been planted. July, we can celebrate your choices because little seedlings are starting to pop through. August, enjoy the sun and start to collect the harvest. In September, this is what really grabbed me in my sleep last night. We share the harvest. We invest in the community. But the harvest also has the seeds of the future planting. So what do you call that when you separate the wheat from the chaff? What is it?
Sifting?
Shifting what is good and consumable, and then creating seeds for future grounds to plant. That in September, we see already the expanded awareness of what's yet to come, but we also are investing in our community and sharing our harvest because we have more than enough. In October, we remember the people that come before us, for it's a day of celebration, of giving thanks that sets up November. We're giving thanks, giving forth giving me a beautiful life. Thank you for giving me a beautiful life. And in December, we reflect and prepare for January, the new beginnings. It all feeds together in the cycle of life. But if we create a theme and then we create it in chunks that makes it manageable for us, 1 year may seem like just a small step, but the trajectory in your life can be amazing. Are you willing to change? Are you willing to experience all 4 stages? Because there'll be risk involved. And the risk will be going out further than we normally do, sharing more than we normally share, believing in things we normally don't see but have faith in. This is the 4 stages of life. God, 24/7, 365 in all areas of my life. We've given up our story. We've given up our control. We've given up our sense of separation, and we own that God is all there is, and the oneness that is me is the oneness that is you. And there is only one love, one power, one presence living through all life. Omni means all. What does all mean according to Reverend Sunshine? All means all, right? We got this. We got a great teacher. We believe in a great philosophy. We embody and embrace and now take action on what we believe. And we lean into what we're learning. Every year we're getting better and better and better. And even though we can go 1, 2, 3, 4 through the stages of life, we might go 1, 4, 3, 2, 4, 4, 1. If we could flip flop through all of it, but not one part of it is less spiritual. It's all God. And as we embrace the fullness of it, we get to accept the not so comfortable part of it. And I can't believe how fast time goes when you're the speaker. But I want to share from you that when you go to a practitioner, the practitioner does not try to hold a thought nor to send out a thought. They simply try to convince themselves of the perfection of the person requesting the spiritual mind treatment or the prayer. The practitioner does not try to make their word operate in the person, but only attempts to know the truth of what they say, what they're stating. The person must be receptive to that truth. The practitioner and the person requesting the prayer must be receptive to receive the truth that heals them. When you believe, the miracle takes place. And the practitioner is dealing with a universal law. God always says yes, backed by omnipresent power with divine principle, which is what Jesus meant when he said, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free." There was a quote in the talk that Tammy Lambert, Reverend Tammy Lambert, she was a ministerial student with me, had stated from our global vision that was related to today's topic. It said, "You see a world in which every person lives in alignment with his or her highest principle, spiritual principle, emphasizing unity with God and connection with each other. A world in which individually and collectively, we are called to a higher state of consciousness and action." This is a call to move from stage 3 to stage 4, to be what Ernest Holmes says on page 230, the last sentence on page 230 to 231 in the Science of Mind book. Through my eyes, God sees the perfection of the kingdom. I too see perfection in all creation, the beauty of the omnipresent God. When we see that God is for us, that there is nothing against us, we let go of everything that hurt or harmed. It's neutralized. It's no longer a hot button for us, for we're seeing God in everything. If you need a forgiveness, if you need somebody to forgive you, you are feeling ashamed of something you did. If you need somebody to forgive you, if you want forgiveness, if you want to give forgiveness, let's see if I can get this right. Somebody help untie my tongue. What I'm trying to say here is forgiveness is either a sense of being proud and you should not have done that to me, or ashamed and I want to make it right. Before we ask anything of anybody, we look within ourselves and we see, why is this a hot button for me? Have I done this in my life? Where have I put somebody on a pedestal that I don't feel as comfortable or as good or the fullness of God? Where have I done anything where I am ashamed, I'm blaming, or I'm feeling guilty? And where do I feel righteous that, this should not have happened? When we do that inner reflection and we forgive ourselves first 70 times 7 for the misperception, for sometimes our lessons don't feel good and sometimes they feel great, but that way we're either operating from pride or shame. So where can we neutralize it? We neutralize it when we look within ourselves. We forgive ourselves. The 3 stages of forgiveness is to blame somebody else, blame ourselves, and then know there's nothing to blame, nothing to forgive. So when we do the inner work first, we don't put on other people what we need to do for ourselves. It's a heavy burden. I don't know that I came to this church because Science of Mind, I wanted to be empowered. I wanted to learn how to live a life of joy, of fulfillment, of doing, of being, of having. But I didn't know that it was going to take me full circle, that everything that I thought happened to me that was not unfair, that I had to work through to see there was forgiveness to be done, personal responsibility to have, and then there was nothing to blame to begin with. When you go full circle, you see that God's in it all the time as everything. I have so much more that I want to share with you, but I've already at 11:20. I want you to know that as you forgive yourself, as you forgive others, if you feel that, dang it, Judy, I'm not a footstool and I will not tolerate people treating me poorly, those statements will draw unto you the experience that you're wishing to avoid. So as you build a world that works for everyone, as you're tearing down walls of separation, that you're opening up a full channel for God to express through you, so that anyone that comes after you can see that regardless of what you've been through, the shining fact that love and God is all there is was the number one focus of your goal of your life. That people, places, or things cannot do anything to you without your agreement. And that as you stand bold in forgiving them, you forgive yourself for spending time thinking you needed something from them, and you free yourselves from the shackles of pain. You compliment yourself, you compliment others when you forgive. And you allow yourself to understand that your worth has been there the whole time. The balance has been taken, the equilibrium is there. That if you fear your shadow, you're going to protect your little light. When you make peace with your shadow and know that it has lessons for you, and that you embrace your shadow, you let your big light shine, you're going to have a big shadow, but it's there to keep your equilibrium. It's there to see the fullness of God, the beauty of your life. And I'm knowing that as we say together, Divine Spirit is powerfully flowing through me as me. Divine Spirit is powerfully flowing as me, in me. There's only God. That as you breathe in your heart center and declare that God exists for me, that one with God is a majority, that there is nothing to fear except for the stories and the imagination I make up within myself. That as I take a deep breath, I release anything that had ever separated me from the fullness of love and the fullness of God. And I'm hoping that the takeaway that you have is that you create a theme for your life, that you break it down in chunks, that it's manageable, that you see how the 4 stages of consciousness are there as signposts. It is not there to consume you, it is there to guide you. And that you ultimately know that no matter how you show up, Spirit of God is living you. And that today is a day that God has made, and that all we do is rejoice in it, celebrating that beauty, that power. So I'm knowing that in this moment, God has made this pure, that in the breath, that it is the refresh button, the restart button, the activating button within my consciousness, within the consciousness of each and every one here, that God is the only activity in town, that as we speak, we are speaking with continuous prayer and calling forth that which we want to have in our world for ourselves and others. That we speak now with boldness, with the consciousness of knowing that there's more than enough. That I speak to the spirit in each and every one of you that's never been sick, harmed, hurt, or endangered, that regardless of age, sex, location, bank account, regardless of whatever experience you might be having in the temporary, that the boldness and the pureness and the fullness of God is at your fingertips. That right now I'm asking you to recognize the stages of life, that God is in every stage of life, and that it for us, the charge is to ask, to believe, to receive, and then act accordingly. Take action to support the vision of your life and expect it with the fullness of heart. And let the mind be the imaging and the activating of your senses, but let your heart guide you through this earth, that you know that everything you need is within you now, that the Spirit of the living God is in you, that your body is the temple in which you live. I am so grateful for knowing that this is the truth of who we are, that nothing we can do can add value to what God has already made perfect. We simply breathe in, relax, and let the flow of God take us to our destination that we hold to be true. Thank you, God. Yes, more, please. And with celebration of the breath, knowing that the breath of kindness and the love of the spoken word fulfills it at every point and place. Let my faith be the truth of everything in this prayer. Thank you, God. Yes, more, please. And so it is.